The last study I saw on this issue shows that a master's degree has the highest ROI, the return on investment,
Yeah.
of any degree. And I would think in political science or history, that would be very, very true. If you're thinking public sector work, you're going to be up against people with master's degrees, and so your competition is going to have master's degrees, and I think if you've got the grades, it's a good route to go.
Yeah, you're the master of your own destiny. You can do amazing things. Look at Steve Jobs. He doesn't even have the university degree.
Mm-hmm.
But to be competitive, to really be somebody that the employer is going to look at and say, you know what, we really want to bring this person on, the more advantages you have, both on paper and also in life and experience, that's going to get you the job, especially with this increased pressure on the job market. So I always say, when in doubt, get a graduate degree, because you get to stay in university for at least another year. You get to avoid having to get married and have babies and mortgages, and you can really explore some topic in more depth. It's a great luxury to be able to go to graduate school. As much as it's a necessity for the job market, it is an incredible experience. So the difference between a master's degree and a law degree is the question that I asked myself when I was graduating from my undergraduate. And I was planning on going to law school, so I studied for the LSATs. And then one of my professors said, well, why don't you go and do a master's? Because they'll fund you. Your marks are good enough. They'll pay you. It's like doing a free degree. And after you have your master's, you can then go to law school, which is not free. It's $20,000 a year for 3 to 4 years. And so I said, okay, that makes sense. I love what I'm doing, but I'm really going to go to law school. So I told everybody, don't worry, I'm just taking a year off from law school with a grad degree. And then I decided that after my master's, I got funding and offers to do a PhD. So I said, don't worry, once I finish my PhD, I'll go to law school. And I still threaten to go to law school as a professor. So I think that, it's certainly a personal decision. A lot of people who do law school then go on to do a master's of law or a master's in public administration. So it really depends on your applications, how much debt you want to go into, because law school is crippling. Sometimes people say, oh, I'll go and do a graduate degree after I do law school, but they're in debt $80,000 and they have to start working in order to pay off that debt, and then they turn out to be 50-year-olds who drop out to go to grad school. So it is a personal decision. I would suggest that if you're on the fence, that you apply for both and then weigh your options. As Dr. Barker said, don't do it if you're going to go into debt. Be very strategic, because it's going to add anxiety to your life. You're already going to be anxious. You're already going to be with people who are competitive, with big ideas that you're still wrestling with. You're going to be challenged so much intellectually and personally that you shouldn't also be challenged financially. So it's a big decision, and it's one that you will have to weigh for yourself.
I'd add a couple of things, Matthew. Mm-hmm. I agree with everything that Dr. Riddell said here. I would say if you happen to do the GREs and the LSATs, and you did exceedingly well in the GREs, you might want to think that, hey, maybe that's where I should be going. The other thing I would do is, if you're sort of sitting on the fence there, is talk to people. You can talk to professors like us about, say, history or whatever humanities you're thinking of doing. But don't hesitate. Undoubtedly, you or your family or your friends know some lawyers. Go and talk to them about where the legal profession is going to. Ask them about that.
So if you go to England for a master's or for a PhD, the difference in funding and the difference in networks should be something that you consider. So if you go to the UK to do graduate work, I know in the humanities, you do a PhD in 3 years.
Okay.
Which means you already have to know exactly what your research project is. You don't have any time to read around the field. You don't have any time to sit in graduate seminars and explore and digest. You pretty much start writing your doctoral dissertation as soon as you arrive on UK soil. So you have to be really prepared. If you already know what you want to do, that is an option. The funding isn't great for overseas candidates. You can get a Canadian Commonwealth scholarship, but the institutional funding is quite different in the UK than it is in Canada and certainly in the US.
I've got an interesting case, a history student, Daniel Sarzi. She went to Ireland and did a master's in medieval history. And she was a great bishop's grad. Went to Ireland, did a master's in medieval history. The last time I heard from her, she was vice president of a mining company.
Wow.
Out in Vancouver. But that's where she ended up. But the experience was very enriching. And she had good grades out of bishops. I think, I can't recall, but I think she got a good scholarship. And no, doors can open. And bishops is a good reputation in
Overseas.
Yeah.
So being strategic about your letters of reference is also to understand the expectations of the program that you're applying for. You want to, if you're applying to an academic-based program, really emphasize your skills in the classroom and your skills of critical thinking. So you'd want to get professors who have a lot of knowledge of you in the classroom and have read your assignments and seen your development so they can comment on that. If you are interested in something that is perhaps more broad or interdisciplinary, you can include people in the field or in extracurriculars. I would say for everybody strategically, if you have 3 letters of reference, which is standard, you would choose at least 2 in your field who know you really well as students, and 1 who can comment on you as an overall person, perhaps in a different department, or perhaps via extracurricular activities. So you're trying to present the best possible front so that the graduate committee can say you are the best candidate for us. I'd like to talk a little bit about letters of intent, just very briefly, because letters of intent are a genre that one must master. You have to understand the program that you are applying for and what their expectations are. A letter of intent is not a personal statement of emotional growth. It is, in English anyway, a highly structured and stylized series of conventions. So you will be presenting a research project. You will say, I am applying for this graduate program. This is my research. This is the context, methodology, and research outcomes. I would like to work with these 2 or 3 specific people in the department, and this is why I'm an excellent candidate to join your school. So it is a very structured set of expectations. It is not, I came to Bishop's and I really liked it, and I was an RA and I partied, but then I got serious, and then I fell in love with medieval drama, and then I decided to take Dr. Barker's course, and now I want to be a historian. It's a very structured set of conventions. You need to think about the letter of intent as its own course, as its own endeavor. You need to do research about those expectations, and you need to go through several drafts to refine what your letter is, because it is the first thing that a graduate committee will read that will give them insight into you as a possible graduate candidate. Take that letter of intent seriously. Don't whip it off at the last minute, because it'll end up with grammatical mistakes, typos, you'll lose your authority, and you won't be presenting your best face.
Can I add to that?
Please.
You've got to remember, and this is the reality, you're in a business now getting into grad school, that the graduate committee will take that letter of intent. And supposing your GPA and your transcript, everything's great, this may be when the graduate committee itself starts horse trading with you. They may be going to accept 5 or 6 candidates, fund them, all the rest of it, and they will use that letter of intent to decide, who gets what. Well, last year, you, Professor X, you got a graduate student in that area, and this year I see in this letter of intent somebody that could go to Professor Y. And there's horse trading that goes on here in these competitive schools. And that's where that letter of intent, think of how the graduate committee is going to react with that letter, as Dr. Riddell says. It gets down to horse trading in some cases, and that's horse trading with your life, and you want to win. So that's a document you want to spend more time on than anything else you've written in Bishops, perhaps.
Yeah, my students right now who are applying for graduate school have gone back and forth with me about 6 times already. So we've had 6 drafts of this letter of intent. We take it very seriously. When I write a reference letter for somebody that is glowing and hyperbolic in praise, I want it to match the letter of intent and the discipline my student has shown in the development of their graduate application.
And that committee may decide, is this person somebody who can contribute to the scholarship in their field and make our graduate school look good.
Don't go just for the name because it sounds good. Go because you're going to get a personalized experience. You're going to get the necessary skills to really take away an excellent set of discipline-specific skills. If there's a person that you want to work with at McGill, or possibilities of 2 or 3 people, go and meet them, make an appointment, and find out if you like them or not. Because often on paper, somebody will be the most exciting researcher that really you think fits perfectly with what you want to do, and then you meet them and they're the most boring human being on earth, or they're really mean, or they're not collaborative, and you
they're tied up in their own research,
or they're busy and they
sometimes
really don't want to know you.
Yeah.
So you need to know those things before you dedicate a year or 5 years or 7 years to that kind of commitment. You're shopping around for a relationship. So be a smart shopper. It really is discipline specific. So the best place for, and it's also not only discipline specific, but it's also field specific. So the best place in Canada for an English person, English literature student who wants to look into early modern drama will go to a very different place than a student who wants to do Canadian literature. So it really depends. Do your homework. Research the departments, research the universities, and ask your professors, because it really varies not only across disciplines, but also in what field within that discipline you want to follow through. It is so exciting, and it is a luxury, and it is a privilege, and it should be scary, because you need to respect that you're going to take your knowledge to the next level. And it's going to be intimidating. If you were already in your final year going, I am so done with undergraduate, I am so ready, I'm going to nail grad school, you're going to go in with unrealistic expectations. It is awesome, but it's also the most challenging academic experience you're going to have thus far in your life. So it's good and it's scary, and it's good to be scared.
And it's cool. It's cool.